So now that you understand how to factor, we're going to use factoring to solve quadratic equations. And quadratic equations are any equations that can be written in the form that they have a degree 2 polynomial on one side and 0 on the other. Okay, so that would be a quadratic equation. So in this case, we're looking at a quadratic equation, and the way that we're going to go through, the way that we're going to go about solving it is to factor the left-hand side, because that's going to give us a product, two numbers that multiply together to be equal to 0. In this case, 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 needs to be factored, and it's a three-term polynomial. There is no GCF, and so let's go ahead and use the AC method. In this case, AC is equal to 6, B is equal to 5, and so we need two numbers that multiply together to be positive 6 that add together to be positive 5. So the numbers that multiply together to be positive 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. And 2 and 3 multiply together to be positive 6 and add together to be positive 5. So we're going to use those two numbers to rewrite the polynomial on the left-hand side. 2x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 3. And this is an equation. It has to stay an equation. Don't turn it into an expression by stopping writing the equals 0. As we look at it, this will factor by grouping, right? Four-term polynomial factors by grouping. Our first group has a GCF of 2x, and it's 2x times x plus 1, right? 2x times x is 2x squared, 2x times 1 is 2x, and then we need what's inside the parentheses to match. We need to figure out what needs to come out of here, and I think at this point it's pretty clear that a 3 needs to be pulled out, and 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 1 is 3. Again, this is an equation, so we continue writing the equals 0. We're not done. We have to finish factoring it, and so this is x plus 1 times 2x plus 3, and that's equal to 0. Now here's where the fact that we had a 0 on the right-hand side becomes important. What we're looking at right now is two numbers. X plus 1 is the first number, and 2x plus 3 is the second number. Right? Whatever x is going to change the value of those two numbers. The only way to multiply two numbers together and get 0 is for one of those numbers to be 0. And this is called the zero product property or the zero product theorem. There's a lot of different names that it goes by. In this case, it's essential that the number on the right-hand side is 0. If I told you that two numbers multiply together to be 6, there's an infinite number of choices. 1 and 6, 2 and 3, negative 1 and negative 6, negative 2 and negative 3, 12 and 1/2. All of those numbers can multiply together to be 6. But the only way to multiply two numbers together and get 0 is for one of them to be equal to 0. And so we're going to use that fact. And what we're going to end up with is we know that if x plus 1 times 2x plus 3 is equal to 0, then either x plus 1 equals 0 or 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. It's the only way that it can happen. Now we have two linear equations that we can solve. If x plus 1 is equal to 0, then x is equal to negative 1. If 2x plus 3 is equal to 0, we can subtract 3 from both sides. And then we can divide both sides by 2, and we end up with a final answer for our quadratic equation. We end up with x is equal to negative 1, or x is equal to negative 3 over 2. And you could rewrite negative 3 over 2 as negative 1.5. That would also be okay. It doesn't matter how you write the final answer. You could rewrite it as negative 1.5. But we have two different answers that work. If you plug them back in and check them, they will check out. If we use negative 1 and we plug that in up here, negative 1 squared is positive 1, and so this is 2. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5 plus 3, so 2 minus 5 plus 3, that is equal to 0. And if we plug in the negative 3 over 2, we would get a similar, we would see a similar thing. The left-hand side would simplify to be 0 as well. So you want to make sure that you check, and it's okay for you to check with your calculator. That works also.